I was in a room a few years ago, a house, and this woman who had mental health problems, 40-year-old woman, and there were other people that probably had mental health problems as well. I don't have them, I should say. My brain functions perfectly. This woman, she said the worst thing that could happen in someone's life, what a person could experience, I thought she was going to say some sort of mental health problem. She said the worst thing that can happen in someone's life is dying. And I thought, well, how true is that? It is, because that's it, it's over. And it doesn't matter whether you die in pain. Obviously, no one wants to die in pain. But the thought of being faced with that moment of death, and we've all known people that have died, well, most of us, I'm talking to older people, and have lost people in our lives. My brother said to me when he was dying a few years ago, he died in 2019, and well, I won't say what he died of, but he said, I went to visit him in his house, and I found him hard to get on with because he was quite abrupt the way he spoke. But I went to his house to just be with him and talk to him. And he turned to me at some point. He said, you don't know what it's like. I thought, well, I don't suppose I do. But he never had a belief in God. He said he was quite fluent with it when he spoke to me over the years. He didn't believe it. He said, you believe it though, don't you? Because I go to church, or I went to church. I didn't always believe it, but I still went to church of some sort. And I've done a lot of wrong things in my life, but I went to church. I was brought up in a Catholic Irish family. I went to the Catholic church, but I had to when I was younger, because we all had to. I was confirmed in the Catholic Church, and I received my first Holy Communion in the Catholic Church. I don't agree with all of what they're doing, but they have a premise. His name is Jesus. But that's not what I'm going to go on about anyway. Like my brother, he says, well, you don't know what it's like. And it sort of shook me a bit. I thought, well, I don't know. I didn't know what to say to him. And I don't know what it's like dying. I enjoy living, but one day we're going to know what it's like, because it's looming. When I was younger, I said to myself, because I was frightened of death, I was terrified of death. For years, in my 30s, 40s, the thought of actually dying and there's nothing. What's the point in it all? Why are we here? Why am I speaking now? If when I die, there's nothing, you won't even remember it. I often thought, when you die and there's nothing, because I believe there was nothing at times, that you just go into masses and masses of blackness, nothing, 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 nothing. But now I have a 100% belief in Jesus Christ, and I've had it reinforced to me, and I've also had spiritual moments, and I've also seen spiritual entities on this earth. They're invisible. And you're probably asking, well, how did you see them if they're invisible? Because once my eyes were opened, and God opened them, I was always meant to know what I'm knowing now. I was always meant to live as long as I've lived. I wasn't meant to die when I was 30, because I wouldn't know what I know now, and I believe that it was God-given and it was planned. So if I knew I was going to live another 30 years, well, 40 years, I wonder what it would be like if we knew we were going to die at 96. Most people say they wouldn't want to know, and I think the reality of it is I wouldn't want to know. And I'm just talking off the top of my head, because I'm going to do a testimony. I'm going to type it out and then articulate it and put it on YouTube. I've already put a number of YouTube videos on YouTube. They're Christian-based videos. I put the 7 churches of Revelations on there and a number of Psalms, and I will do a testimony and tell you who I am and what's happened in my life. And I'm not, because I'm not Mr. Wonderful. I know there's people out there that have had horrendous lives, and I thank God that mine wasn't as bad as that, as bad as mine may have been. And I think of the disciple of Jesus, John. He wrote the book of Revelations on the Greek island of Patmos. God spoke to him and told him what to write. He wrote the 7 churches of Revelations. He wrote about the whore of Babylon, the great harlot that sits on many seas. He wrote everything that is in the book of Revelations. And I was saying to a friend recently, I said he must have been a very intelligent man. This is 2,000 years ago this man did it. He didn't have the technology that we have today, because my standard of education is just normal, really. I haven't got a degree, I haven't got anything major. But he wrote it all down in some form or another, on some sort of parchment paper or whatever it might be. Even Moses, he wrote it down on a stone, on a tablet, and he scribed it down with some sort of instrument. He wrote the 10 Commandments that God had given to him, and the laws of Moses, basically, many laws. But God was the person that taught John to write it down. And John, as I said, was one of the disciples. The other disciples died in a very dreadful way. Even Judas, he died, he actually hanged himself. He was the man that actually betrayed Christ himself. The purpose of this video is because I've put a number of videos on YouTube, and I want to qualify what I'm saying. I can't just orate videos that's from the Bible. I need to actually give my testimony. I need to tell people why I'm doing it. I'm not going to get too personal about myself. There is privacies that people have, but I will give what I have to give to help other people. That's why I'm also doing this YouTube. I said to a friend, I'm not leaving this earth without actually trying to help people, and YouTube is a platform to do this, and I'm going to keep it real, if people can accept that where the Bible is concerned, because most people think it's a fantasy or it's not true. But it isn't. No one, they didn't process thousands of words in that book for the fun of it. These were written by intelligent men. And I think a lot of the Bible was written 70 years after the death of Christ. And there is a warning from God in the last book of Revelations. The last words of Revelations basically are, "For I testify unto every man that have heard the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book." And it also finishes with, "And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book." Amen.